Now let's talk about specifically one cloud service provider. Majorly, on a very high level, all the cloud providers provide the similar kind of services. So here we saw there are different cloud providers, but we are going to look at now the Azure Microsoft Azure Cloud Services. So on a very high level, the services are categorized under developer friendly services, services which are related to management and security, services which are related to integration, and some of the services which are related to networking. So if you go for developers services, then you get these kind of tools like you can do development faster, those kind of things. If you go to management services, you get management and security services. This is the major chunk. So here you have this services called compute. Let's say this one. So compute, in the compute category, what you get, you can get a bare bone virtual machine. You can get more than one virtual machine. You can get something called batch service. You can get uh, services like you can run Docker containers inside that. Those kind of services comes under the category called compute. And there are similar, there's other services. Let's say you want to perform certain task at a specific time, or it is after a specific period. So those kind of services comes under schedulers. So let's say you have web apps and then the functions, Azure functions and logic apps where you can build the whole complete workflow, API management, notification hubs for sending different notification services, functions. Functions are like if you don't want to run a server for, let's say, even for 1 hour, what you want is you just want to use that server for doing that operation and then shut down. I mean, let's say you want to only execute that code and then shut down that server. So those kind of compute capabilities comes from functions. And on AWS, it's called lambdas. They are also called as serverless mode. Similarly, if you want databases, then you get a variety of databases like this SQL-based database, RDBMS, relational databases. You get non-SQL databases like MongoDB, Cosmos DB. In SQL databases, you get Azure SQL DB, you get MySQL, any other databases that you can imagine, you will get it. You get cache systems also like Redis cache for faster uh, data performance or data storage and retrieval. So you also get this caching capability. Then you get some storage capabilities where you can store PDFs, Excel, or videos, those kind of. So this is like storage, blob storage, queues, files, disk. And of course, you also get capability like search. You can search a lots of data, and then you get big data capability with the data warehousing. And then for analysis, let's say you want to derive meaningful information out of a lots of data, so you can perform analytics on it. And for that, you get services from Azure like Azure Data Lake Analytics, Data Lake Store, HD Insight, Machine Learning, Stream Analytics, Data Factory, Power BI, a lot of other services you can just think of, and the cloud service provider already has a service for you for that particular use case. It's not only the case for Azure, the AWS cloud or Amazon is also providing similar services, but the name can be different. Google Cloud is also providing the similar services, but the name of the service can be different there. So if you know about one cloud and you have worked with one cloud, you can relate it to any other cloud. Similarly, there are services provided for Internet of Things and deriving intelligence out of it, like IoT Hub and IoT Event Hubs. And you will have cognitive services. Cognitive services, there you can do a lot of things like speech recognition or image recognition, or you can also do image search. You can do translation of the text. You can do image extraction from, you can extract image from an, you can extract text from different image. You can do a lot of things. Similarly, media and CDN. Here you can, let's say you want to store lots of videos and other stuff, and you want to make sure those videos are delivered in a fraction of second. So there's something called content delivery network, CDN. This helps you to deliver your stored content or stored static files at a very fast pace to the user, because they do some kind of edge caching in the nearest location where the user is requesting that data from. So it a CDN is kind of a cache, but on a very big level. And then we have identity access management. Here, who has access to which kind of service and what action they can perform on different kind of service. Let's say if you are allowed to take a remote desktop on a virtual machine which you have created here or not, that you can decide and do some kind of authentication, authorization, and identity management here. You can say from the virtual machine, let's say the application is running and you want to connect to this database. So you have to create some kind of connection, security connection here. So you have to create maybe a service principal, or you have to give an access there to, so that they can talk to each other. So you can do a lot of things here. And of course, you can do a multi-factor authentication for logging into your Azure portal as well. So there are some more services at the below, like backup and recovery. If let's say what happens if your whole data center crashes in one location, how do you get it up and running soon? So those kind of services helps you there, backup and site recovery. Then you have something called as VNet, virtual network. It's virtual network is nothing but in your on-premise also, when you are deploying your app, when you are setting up your infrastructure, you create a network, and on the network you create sub-network, you create subnet. So you create subnets with certain IP ranges. You say there are let's say 5 subnets. 3 subnets will be for private, and 2 subnets will have an IP range which can be accessible from internet. So in the cloud service world, what happens is, because the cloud is going to be shared, that's what we learned here. It is sharing of resources. So resources are shared, which means beside your application, some other company's application can be also running on the same infrastructure. So how do you separate it from each other? That's where you have to create virtual networks, and you make sure in your virtual network you create your subnets, and in those subnets only your IP ranges are accessible, and your services are running within those IP ranges. There's something called ExpressRoute. ExpressRoute is another service, and that helps basically to connect to your on-premise infrastructure from cloud. So if you have, let's say, a hybrid model where some part of your application is running on on-premise infrastructure and some part is running on cloud, how do you make sure there is a connectivity, secure connectivity with happening between the two? For that, Azure provides a service called ExpressRoute. This helps you to make sure that the traffic from your cloud goes to your on-premise and vice versa in a secured channel, in a secured manner. So that's the service express route. And similarly, you have services like load balancer, where you can basically load balancer and application gateway. They make sure the, let's say if you have 10 virtual machines running the same application, and request is coming from the user, and now you want to make sure the request should go only to that specific machine which has the least traffic, which has the least responsibility. So this routing mechanism of your traffic is taken care by, let's say, the load balancer and application gateway. Similarly, you have Azure DNS, where you can configure custom domains for your different kinds of applications that are running on Azure. So there are, these are the I mean, on a very high level, these services serve this purpose. So it is cloud is very vast, so you have to specialize. You have to do either certifications. You can do fundamental certifications on Azure, it's Azure 900, or you can do developer certification, which is Azure 204. If you want to make sure you are able to deploy application with the CI/CD pipeline based approach, you can do Azure DevOps, which is for Azure 400 certification. If you want to do artificial intelligence related services, then you can do Azure 102. That's another certification. So if you are more interested in security, so you are dealing with these kind of services, so you can do Azure 500. That's a security certification. So there are, you don't have to know all the services of cloud, but you need to know those services which concerns your requirement or your use case. Hence, these are the services which you can use and you can play around with. So next is Azure DevOps. Let's talk about Azure DevOps.